What's up, everyone? It's Peter Tragos, the lawyer you know, and today we're jumping back in to the Erika Jayne and Tom Girardi saga as a brand new civil lawsuit has come down and been filed against Tom Girardi and a bunch of other co-defendants. Now, it's not a surprise that Tom Girardi's been sued from the victims of his Ponzi scheme. His prior clients that he stole and misappropriated their settlement funds using funding companies and all sorts of ways to be shady throughout a personal injury case, which we have broken down in detail in other videos. And when I say in the intro of all my videos, people hate lawyers, well, this is the reason why. Scummy lawyers like Tom Girardi who steal from their clients and take advantage of their clients when they're in a position of strength and their clients are in a position of weakness. We started this channel to try to let people know what their rights are, to try to protect them from people that try to take advantage of them. And sometimes, unfortunately, it is lawyers. And we have done a lot of videos already on this, explaining exactly what Tom Girardi did. But the question has always been, did Erika Jayne know? Is she going to be implicated in these criminal and civil investigations? And will she be a named defendant in these civil lawsuits? It has seemed to be tracking in that way. Most of you thought she would. We are going to get to this complaint to see if she's listed as a defendant and what exactly they are claiming against her. So if you haven't already and you enjoy this type of content on the Real Housewife Erika Jayne and her personal injury lawyer giant or former giant husband Tom Girardi, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe to our page and let us know what you think of this case and any comments or questions you have in the comment section. So we're first going to put page 1 of this complaint up on the screen to let the cat out of the bag that yes, Erika Jayne and her company EJ Global LLC are listed as co-defendants in this complaint. And if you look to the right, you can see all of the counts that are charged in this complaint. Racketeering, conspiracy to commit racketeering, receipt of stolen property, aiding and abetting concealment of stolen property, money had and received, conversion, which is basically theft, unlawful business practice, Consumers Legal Remedies Act, and deceit. Now, only some of those apply to Erika Jayne specifically and her company, and we're going to get to what those are. But throughout this complaint, there are certain specific facts that apply only to Erika Jayne, and we're going to see if we think these facts that they're applying to Erika Jayne are enough to rise to this level that if she should be specifically liable to these victims of Tom Girardi, and what liability does she have? And what I want you to do, the listener and the watcher, during this video, as we go through these facts that are attributable to Erika Jayne and the wrongdoing that she has in this case, and as we go through the causes of action, let me know whether or not you think she's liable by putting absolutely in the comments if you think she is liable to these victims or no way if you don't think she is, if you think this mostly goes on Tom Girardi and some of the other defendants listed in this lawsuit, because that's really what I want to know. And when you answer that question in the comments, let me know why. Let me know what fact or what part of this complaint or what cause of action really makes you think that she is or is not liable for the damages suffered by these poor clients. And there's no doubt there were damages suffered, and we're not really going to focus a ton on Tom Girardi, some of the other lawyers in this, or some of the funding companies, because they are cooked. They are absolutely liable. The question is just going to be how much, and we'll get to that at the very end of the video. How much are they asking for? Because I've seen some other reports that it's $50 million or a little more than $50 million. Well, we're going to talk about that at the end of the video and how it could be way more than $50 million. So let's jump into this complaint again, focusing on how it specifically relates to Erika Jayne. So we start out on page 1 of the complaint, which is the nature of the action. This is where you kind of go through what happened in the case, how did we get here, what's going on. And we're going to skip down to line 21, paragraph 4. But every bit of this outward-facing success was built atop a house of cards. In reality, the firm was siphoning off millions to fund Tom and Erika's all-consuming need to spend, funding a lifestyle so lavish that Erika was a cast member of The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, and the couple certainly played up the part of flaunting their wealth and the fact that Tom was a powerful attorney who wooed celebrities, judges, and politicians alike. But that money was not earned by the firm or by Tom, but was stolen from co-counsel, from vendors with long overdue bills, and by far the most unforgivable for an attorney, from the firm's own injured clients. So locking Erika Jayne in right in the beginning. They were stealing this together, and the reason they were stealing it, the motive for all of this, was the way she wanted to flaunt it and act like a big shot on the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. All right, next, page 2, line 24. This is paragraph 8. It's going to go over page 2 and 3. Erika acted as the front woman of the operation, selling to the world, including unsuspecting clients, that Girardi Keese was successful. And she was exceptionally good in the role. With tens of millions of dollars backing her, Erika shamelessly displayed a nationwide showroom of the money they stole on Real Housewives, famously spending $40,000 a month on her look and releasing a song called Expensive, featuring the refrain, "It's expensive to be me." And when push came to shove and the fraud was close to being exposed, Erika clamped down on misleading the public into believing that an otherwise damning lawsuit was false and that the plaintiffs behind it were forced to apologize to Tom and the firm. So she's the front woman, and she aided in this because her celebrity, her being on the show, all of her followers on social media are seeing and believing that this conspiracy, in the center of the conspiracy is the Girardi law firm, Girardi Keese, and she's aiding to that, making clients think they're great, making clients want to trust them, making clients want to come, all while they're backing her with the money that they are stealing and that she is stealing from the law firm. That's what they're alleging here. All right, let's jump down to page 6, line 1. But even after Edelson brought this scheme, Edelson's one of the plaintiff's lawyers, to light, Tom, Erika, Lyra, and Griffin continued to run the same playbook that they always have. Bribe, lie, and or kick up as much dust as possible in order to hide their decade-long fraud. After Edelson's 2020 filings, Tom tried to convince Edelson that the things weren't as bad as they appeared, and it was all just a big misunderstanding. Again, Erika involved. Let's jump down now to line 14. To this day, Erika uses her significant public platform to lie about her own involvement and to try to assist Tom and the others in getting away with it. Conspiracy, assisting them. Incredibly, Lyra and Griffin continue to practice law, while the state bar, under pressure from the LA Times and Law 360, has finally appointed an independent investigator. It continues to limit its investigation of the others involved in the Girardi Keese fraud to the Lion Air case. The Lion Air is the plane crash case we talked about before, and has threatened retaliation against lawyers that have questioned its impartiality. Well, that would be this lawyer, because they're already too late, the California bar, and they already made missteps of how they should have handled this case. These lawyers should have been disbarred, they should have been sanctioned, and stuff should have gone in their public record so that other clients who may not have heard about this, whether they're living under a rock or not, if they looked in to the public record of those lawyers, they should find out about this. They should know about what their involvement is in this. And we'll talk more about how the courts had opportunity to step in and they didn't, and the bar had opportunity to step in and they didn't. All right, let's jump down to page 9, line 14. Factual background. This is where we're going to get the facts. And the title of section A. Tom and Erika misappropriated client settlement money to project an image of wealth and prop up a lifestyle made for reality TV. So you saw there's a RICO charge and conspiracy charges. That's why they're wrapping everyone together. They talk about how he founded the law firm and how they kind of rose to fame, Erin Brockovich, and a lot of other famous cases. All right, page 10. Let's hear what they say about Erika. Tom and Erika Girardi purposefully portrayed themselves to the public as an extremely wealthy Beverly Hills power couple. When Erika joined the cast of The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills in 2015, she dazzled viewers by showing off their extravagant lifestyle and her exorbitant spending habits, including her never-ending parade of designer clothes and high-end jewelry, her $250,000 Lamborghini, her personal 24/7 glam squad team that she paid $40,000 a month to pick out her clothes and do her hair and makeup. Spending money was so much a part of Erika's personality on the show that she released a called Expensive. It's expensive to be me. We already heard that. In 2018, in her memoir, Pretty Mess, Erika readily bragged that she has the advantage of a strong checkbook and even discussed her and Tom's finances. This is an excerpt from the book. Now, the haters are always going to say, all you do is spend your husband's money. First of all, it's our money. That's damning, obviously, now that we know what's happened and this lawsuit that's coming. It's our money. Know how I know? Because the IRS tells us that it is. My name is on the tax return too. So now she's trying to hide behind the fact that it's Tom's money and not hers. Well, clearly that's not true. The problem, though, was that the Girardi Keese firm was not actually making enough money to support Tom and Erika's outrageous lifestyle. This only worsened as Erika became a fixture on the Housewives show, which required the two to perform their wealth sufficient to keep Erika in the national limelight for seasons at a time. And the amount that Tom was bringing in, even as the founder of Girardi Keese firm, was not enough. So Tom began to turn to a different source of funds. The victims of horrific and tragic accidents would come to Girardi Keese firm and put enormous trust in him. These individuals that became the firm's clients believed in Tom and the firm, that he portrayed himself to the public as a fighter for their interests, and an enormously successful one. And Tom enjoyed a key information advantage when it came to the victims that he claimed to represent. He knew the legal world and they did not, and that is true for every lawyer. We know the legal world and our clients do not, which is why it's so deplorable when lawyers take advantage of their clients. There are a million ways lawyers take advantage of their clients, and their clients most of the time would never find out. Which is why your character shows when people are not watching and people don't know what you're doing and can't call you out on it. That's why when you come out and apologize after the fact, people are like, well, yeah, now you're caught red-handed. That's why you got to be careful what lawyer you pick and why people often hate lawyers. When a plaintiff's case settles, it's both typical and legal for the funds to be sent to an account where the lawyer holds the money in trust. From there, an attorney can deduct an agreed upon fee, but the remainder is the client's money. And the client's money is where they started stealing and siphoning. And when they'd steal from one client, they'd pay another in order so nobody would actually find out, even though these cases continued to be delayed. All right, next mention of Erika, page 12, line 7. Cameron was the bookkeeper for the Girardi family enterprise, managing the finances both for Girardi Keese and for Erika's businesses. Cameron was responsible for the mechanics of the day-to-day theft required to keep Girardi Keese appearing to operate as a legitimate law firm while simultaneously funding Erika and Tom's ultra-luxury lifestyle. When money came into the client trust account, it was Cameron's job to siphon it off into Girardi Keese's other accounts, where it was used to pay salaries, pay off old creditors, and to benefit Tom and Erika. And I think this is important because Erika keeps spending the money. She keeps telling us in books and songs and TV shows that she is spending the money, that it is their money. So where's the money coming from? Is it siphoning off into her? Now, what we haven't heard a lot about is what is her knowledge. In her memoir, she said it's our money. That's what we've got. But is there going to be more that shows what her actual knowledge is of this fraud? Next, let's jump to page 13, line 7. While Tom, Cayman, Lyra, Griffin, and Hatcher directed and managed the affairs of the Girardi family enterprise, Erika knew of the scheme. Here we go. Intended to participate in it and, critically, to share in its profits, both directly and through her wholly owned company, EJ Global. Despite her public claims that she and Tom were spending their own money, financial records show that more than $25 million of her own expenses were paid by Girardi Keese through the Girardi family enterprise. That includes more than $14 million in American Express charges that were made by Erika on a Girardi Keese card issued to her by the Girardi family enterprise, as well as more than $11 million in vendor payments that the Girardi family enterprise made for her benefit through the law firm. Now, she can't just say her husband was giving her money at this point because she's got a firm card and the firm is paying millions and millions of dollars of expenses for her. So, is that enough knowledge? Erika was neither an owner nor an employee of the law firm. None of the payments were legitimate law firm expenses, but rather were made by the Girardi family enterprise through the scheme for Erika's benefit. The $25 million in credit card charges and invoices that she sent to the firm for payment were used to hire her glam squad. So she is not just saying, I don't know where this money's coming from. She is sending invoices to the law firm and image consultants and talent professionals to allow her to project an image of obscene wealth by spending massive amounts of money on clothes, purses, jewelry, etc. Erika had actual and specific knowledge that the credit card bills and invoices that she submitted to Girardi Keese related to her own personal expenses and had no connection whatsoever with the law firm. Erika had actual and specific knowledge that for at least 12 years, all her expenses were paid by the Girardi family enterprise through Girardi Keese as she was generating. It's pretty damning. She knows the money's coming from them, at least in my opinion. Page 14, line 13, and we're going to go all the way through the beginning of page 16. Money begins to run out, and Erika obfuscates to the media. Even with Tom's influence, prestige, and conspicuous wealth on display, the Girardi family enterprise began to, it says founder, I think it means flounder, in 2019. Because the enterprise was always built on payments to clients and creditors, Tom and Girardi Keese routinely sought litigation funding to bridge the gap. For years, this money flowed freely based on Tom's reputation. But eventually, the Girardi Keese firm and Tom were routinely delinquent on debts to lenders, and the money dried up as lawsuits for payment began to increase. On January 17, 2019, Law Finance Group, a lender, filed a lawsuit against Tom and Girardi Keese that focused heavily on claims that Tom was misappropriating a loan to fund his lavish lifestyle and keep his prominent law firm financially afloat. As cracks began to appear in the enterprise, Erika did her part to obfuscate. Erika was asked to comment on the lawsuit dozens of times by various media outlets. Initially, Erika tried to brush off the LFG lawsuit, saying, "Listen, we're in the lawsuit business, baby. We sue and get sued." Her quotes, in her own words, literally come back to bite her. On March 27th, in 2019, Erika appeared on an episode of Watch What Happens Live. During that episode, a fan asked Erika if she feels the need to cut back on her glam squad since her husband is being sued for a huge amount of money. The host of the show, Andy Curran, acknowledged that they get a lot of questions about this and asked Erika if there's anything she would like to say. Erika replied, yeah, it's a lawsuit. You can't comment on it. But then added, "I pay my own bills. So no, I don't. I don't need to cut back on that glam squad," because she pays her own bills, even though we know that's not true because she submits these invoices to the law firm. At this time, Erika knew that she did not pay her own bills and that her lifestyle was being funded entirely by Tom's law firm. A few months later, on May 24th, 2019, another lender, Stillwell Madison, filed its own lawsuit against Tom, Girardi Keese, and for the first time, Erika herself. The lawsuit was newsworthy, both because it named Erika as a defendant and specifically alleged that Tom had misappropriated the loan to support his and Erika's high-end lifestyle and to maintain her glamorous public image. Stillwell also alleged that Tom transferred more than $5 million of the loan to Erika for her and Tom's personal use instead of business purposes. At that point, Erika began using her celebrity status and platform on the Housewives to protect her and Tom's public interest by lying about the true nature of the mounting legal and financial troubles. 2 weeks later, during the filming of the Housewives Season 9 reunion episode, the host, Andy Cohen, asked Erika if she was trying to stir up drama with her castmates to bury negative stories about her and Tom's legal problems. Erika responded by claiming that the legal issues were resolved and they apologized, indicating that the two lawsuits have been resolved and that both LFG and Stillwater have apologized for suing her, which was not true. As with her false statements about paying her own bills, Erika lied about other things, basically. And throughout this lawsuit, there's a couple different ways where they call Erika a liar and say how she publicly lied, which again, I think is bad and can show how she maybe knows something she's not saying that she knows about, but some lies are not relevant. Now, this stuff I think is, but there's going to be some later that I think those lies are not really relevant as to whether or not she knew or participated in this scheme to defraud. All right, let's go to page 17, line 11 is what we're looking at now. And this is the title to the next section, or to one of the next sections. Tom and Erika go to DiNardo and his companies for litigation funding. And there are all these litigation funding companies that are out there to try to pay for lawyers or give money to clients because it's so lucrative and they know they can make a huge ungodly percentage back that no bank or anybody else would ever be able to get. But because they take advantage of these situations, they get to charge huge interest rates. And sometimes when the lawyers get into bed with them and they promise them parts of fees, which is always a problem. Because in most states, at least that I'm aware of, and I know for sure in Florida and California, you can't fee split with non-lawyers. So to promise this company 10%, 25%, 50% of your fees is unethical and not allowed. Yet they would do things like this. And Erika would spend the money that these funding companies were funding for litigation purposes, for work purposes, for business purposes, for client purposes, not for lavish lifestyle purposes. All right, let's jump to page 18, lines 14 through 26. 4 months later, on September 17, 2019, Erika personally signed an agreement with DiNardo's company, this is the funding company, California Attorney Lending, a first lien on her and Tom's assets. The agreement stated, I am married to Thomas V. Girardi. We have been together for more than 20 years. I agree that California Attorney Lending has a first lien on any assets owned by Thomas V. Girardi and any assets which are community property. Just a month later, she personally signed another agreement that stated, it is agreed that any obligation from the law firm of Thomas Girardi, the estate of Thomas Girardi, is waived until Counsel Financial is paid off in full. I am the sole heir. So once again, now she's speaking for the law firm. She's speaking for Tom Girardi. She's speaking for the finances. She's speaking for the money. She's signing off on these loan agreements. She's using money from the loan agreements. It is not looking good for Erika Jayne at this point. Her name is on the dotted line. She is swearing to things. She is waiving financial rights of Tom Girardi and his law firm. She is granting financial rights. What this is basically saying, these lending companies can stand first in line. They get paid before anybody else. And usually, if there is a funding company and we have it on a lawsuit, just to let you behind the curtain a little bit, if our client needs $1,000 and a funding company loans them $1,000 and they have to pay that funding company $2,000 back, our client will sign it. And sometimes we, the lawyers, will have to sign that $2,000 that this funding company wants, they get paid before we cut any money to the client. So that means we pay the medical bills, we get our attorney's fees, and if there's only $2,000 left, it goes to the funding company, not the client. And that's the client's choice. But in this situation, Erika and Tom are taking that money for themselves. And this seems more like a business loan. Like, hey, we just need to fund litigation. We have a $10 million case. Give us $1 million. Funding companies are happy to do that because, again, they have to pay high interest rates when they return the pay. And if not, they're getting collateral like all the assets from the firm and from Tom Girardi himself, from its sole heir, Erika Jayne, who's signing off on this. The fact that Erika personally signed these agreements, we're on paragraph 88 now, personally signed these agreements proves that at least as early as September 17th and October 25th, Erika had actual and specific knowledge that she and Tom were on the hook for significant debt and that a lender had to be paid off in full before her and Tom took any more money from Girardi Keese, which we know never stopped. And she's still spending tons of money. And the very next paragraph talks about how Tom agreed to give them 50% of his attorney's fees, which is, of course, not okay. But Erika Jayne is not a barred lawyer, so we're going to skip that part for today. All right, let's jump to page 26. And I'm just going to show you real quick on page 24. You see this chart with these millions of dollars. That's all the money they're cutting out of this plane crash case and other cases with cancer patients and class actions. They're cutting those dollars out with fake numbers to give it to Tom Girardi as opposed to give it to the clients. All right, top of page 26. Cayman also used the funds transferred to the Nano bank account to pay the balance of American Express credit or charge cards. These payments covered expenses charged to those cards by Tom, Erika, and Erika's companies. The payments are set forth in detail below, and a statement of financial affidavit filed by Girardi Keese, Chapter 7 trustee on August 24th, 2021. So they're literally taking client money, transferring it out, and paying for Erika's credit cards for her hair and makeup and glam squad. All right, we're going to skip all the way down to page 42 now. So there are 3 or 4 pages here that discuss how Erika uses her platform to protect the Girardi family enterprise and the divorce. And they go through all the reasons they think the divorce is fake and how she talks a little bit about it here. And then she says something else here and how she supports Tom. Then she's against Tom. It's Tom's money. I don't know what's going on with Tom, so I'm out. How she says he's perfectly fine in one interview and in the next agrees that he has dementia. Then there's a lot of talk about how she was inconsistent about describing the car accident. And she goes on Rappaport's show and says he's perfectly healed, he's totally fine, but then later thinks he has dementia and some court documents for the divorce. Again, we're not going to get into that a ton. I'm not sure how culpable this makes her look or what this shows about her knowledge or how relevant these lies are, whether Tom's good or bad or she's with him or not. In relationships, I think they can be rocky, especially, celebrity ones. So proving the divorce is fake, I think is kind of tough. And using some of these to talk about his injuries or not is kind of tough, but there is multiple sections and pages on that for any of you interested in it. You can check that out. All right, let's jump to page 44, lines 3 through 6. There is part of it I want to mention at least. During that episode, Erika also answered a question about whether she was ever suspicious of Tom by saying, Erika was making her own money. I was doing fine. This answer is remarkable because it implies that Erika was spending her own money rather than money given to her through Girardi Keese, which was not true. So in some of these interviews, again, she's saying, I'm making my own money. I'm fine. I don't care about these lawsuits for Tom. I don't care what's going on with Tom or his law firm. I'm making my own money, when in reality, she was getting money from Tom and his law firm to pay for her lifestyle. So those lies, I think, are important, about making my own money, or I'm doing things fine, or I pay for this stuff, or I don't know what's happening with Tom's money, or that's Tom's money, not mine, when she's signing documents saying the opposite. Okay, let's jump to page 46, line 19 to look at another title. Erika leverages the scandal to further her career and stay relevant in the tabloids. Again, this doesn't make her look good. I'm not sure how relevant it is. They talk about how she wants to continue talking about the scandals, bringing it up because people are talking about her. She's the star of the show. Everyone wants to watch this season of Real Housewives to see what are they going to say about Tom Girardi? What are they going to say about Erika? What are they going to say about the scandal? Well, she's using that to leverage it to get more money, which is, again, I guess you could argue continuing the RICO, continuing the scheme, continuing the fraud, continuing benefiting and profiting off these people and all the wrongs that she's done. But I'm not sure how relevant it is to the actual theft that's at the center of this entire case. All right, next page, 47, line 21. Though Erika has published numerous posts making light of the Ponzi scheme, none are more insensitive than that of the cartoon of herself hanging on a cross that she posts on Instagram, which mocks the Lion Air victims, with earrings that display the words widows and orphans, and the caption that describes herself as the scapegoat. The depiction of the widows and orphans earrings in the cartoon satirized the real-life $750,000 diamond earrings that Erika often flaunted on Housewives, and was meant to mock the idea that she ever received money stolen from Tom's clients. Though intended as a cruel joke, the Girardi Keese bankruptcy trustee recently discovered that the funds used to purchase those $750,000 diamond earrings were in fact funded from a trust account holding a settlement money belonging to Tom's personal injury clients. Literally, the widows and orphans paid for her $750 diamond earrings. If they put this before a jury, I do not understand how they do not bury her with a huge, huge verdict and judgment against her. Tellingly, when the trustee demanded that Erika turn them over to the estate so they can be used to help compensate the victims of the scheme, she refused to give them up. So she's taking it to the grave, this deplorable action from her. I mean, that is next level, people. Next level type of human being. When they say there's a special place for people like her, I agree. Wow. I mean, that stuff is just shocking to me. All right, now let's get to the causes of action that actually focus on Erika Jayne, and there's two of them. It's the second and third cause of action. So we're going to start here on page 52. Conspiracy to commit racketeering against Lyra Griffin Cayman Hatcher, wrongful death consultants, EJ Global, and Erika. So the plaintiff incorporates all those facts before, so they don't have to restate them all. And even if they did not direct or manage the affairs of the Girardi family enterprise, all these defendants, including EJ Global and Erika Jayne, agreed that someone would commit the predicate acts as detailed above. So all the bad things that Tom Girardi did. All these defendants, including Erika, were each aware of the essential nature and scope of the Girardi family enterprise, and they intended to participate in it and share in its profits. The Lion Air clients were deprived of money that they would not otherwise have lost as a direct and proximate result of the defendant's racketeering activities. The Lion Air clients have been injured through the theft of their settlement monies and payments of illegitimate attorney's fees. As a foreseeable and natural consequence of the Girardi family enterprise's fraudulent scheme described above, the Annis family, the Bias family, the Dion family, and the Septiana family each lost at least $500,000 of the amounts that should have been paid to them under their settlements with Boeing. The multifamily loss is at least blank. And now as we're going to see a couple blanks that we hate to see, and I don't know why, I don't know if you have a document without these blanks that show what the total loss actually is. Each of the Lion Air clients suffered damages, including blank in legal fees that they paid to Girardi Keese, and blank in legal fees to their other lawyer, Floyd Weissner, as a result of the fraudulent scheme. So they are entitled to an award of 3 times the damages sustained, or no less than blank the cost of this action and reasonable attorney's fees. We're going to talk at the end about the prayer for relief in full and how much money they could actually be seeking as a result of this lawsuit. All right, so receipt of stolen property is the actual cause of action. Let's jump to where it actually talks about Erika Jane. On information and belief, when they accepted payment of the American Express balances, Erika and EJ Global did so with the knowledge that the funds used to make those payments had been obtained in a manner constituting theft. The Lion Air clients were injured by these defendants, and they are due their damages plus attorney's fees and costs. So again, that's why some of those quotes in the media about I make my own money, I pay this myself, are going to be damning if they can prove she in fact knew that's not true. So after all the 9 causes of action dealing with all the other defendants, let's get to the prayer for relief and see what are they actually asking for in this complaint. The prayer for relief is the following: an award of actual damages in an amount no less than blank, and we can't see what that amount is. An award of treble damages as permitted or required by law in an amount no less than blank. Treble damages are 3 times your actual damages. So if those actual damages are $10 million, the treble damages are $30 million. An award of restitution for defendants' wrongful conduct. An award of reasonable attorney's fees and costs, which can be a huge amount. I mean, you see the millions of dollars of attorney's fees that were paid in this case. Well, there's going to be more now in this civil lawsuit. So they want those piled on top. And the costs piled on top. If you look through the lawsuit, there's hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not millions of dollars in costs throughout these lawsuits. And then, here we go, the number we actually get to see. An award of punitive damages in an amount no less than $55 million. And I submit to you that this number might be there for the media to talk about how it's a $50 million lawsuit. But in reality, it's at least $55 million plus actual damages, plus treble damages, plus attorney's fees, plus cost. We could be getting up into the $100 million range or more when we talk about the potential damages in this case. And the Real Housewives episodes are going to be evidence of how much money was actually spent and stolen. It's if you just look through, it's $10 million here, $3 million there, $4 million there. I think it's at least $100 million total in this case. At least $100 million they're looking at. And then you got attorney's fees on top of that. And then, of course, they want interest, the creation of a trust, and any other relief the court deems reasonable. And who do they want to decide this? They want this to be done in a trial by jury for all of the issues that are triable, because that is when you get your fair day in court. So let me know what you think. Do you think Erika Jane has liability? Why, based on this complaint? Which causes of action do you think apply to her? Let me know in the comments, because you all could be jurors on a case like this. And you all have knowledge potentially of the Real Housewives. And you can bring that in as long as you can remain impartial. Bring that in and determine what you know about Real Housewives, because that's going to be evidence in this case. It's not like a documentary about Elizabeth Holmes or about R. Kelly where he's not in. She is actually putting herself out there, and it's going to be used as evidence in this case. You can guarantee that. So let me know what you think in the comments. If you're interested in this, hit the like button and make sure you subscribe for future breakdowns of this specific civil case. If you guys want it, let me know in the comments. But for now, that's all we've got. Thanks for watching this episode of The Lawyer You Know. If you like this content, please share it with your friends. Make sure you subscribe to our page and like our videos. If you want some interaction, get in the comments and we'll be sure to get back to you. If you want to know any more information about our firm or this page, you can find out in the description or visit tragoslaw.com. We post multiple times throughout the week, so make sure you hit that bell so you can get the notification and not miss out on the next episode.